let's take an in-depth look at tomorrow's game. Yes, there's a game tomorrow. Football is here, let's freaking go. Against the Chicago Bears, and talk about players to watch for from the Chiefs specifically, from each position group, along with the main reasons why, and much freaking more. But first, how about those? What's up, guys? My name is Cole, aka the Crimson Bearded Coffee Crusher, or sometimes known as the baddest red beard in the whole dang town, and I do daily news about the Kansas City Chiefs, the best team in the NFL, so definitely make sure to sub. If you're new for the most thorough content on the platform, hit that like button if you're ready for some freaking football tomorrow, and let's get into this video. Focusing on tomorrow's game against the Chicago Bears, I'm going to do an in-depth look at some players to watch for from every position group on the team, and this is not an exhaustive overview, meaning I may skip over some players here and there from each group. For example, players like L'Jarius Sneed, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, players like that, because these guys are all roster locks and will more than likely be seeing limited playing time as it is. I'm more so going to be focusing on guys who are either rookies or are fighting for a spot on the roster, as these are the guys to really watch for. Every play matters for them because it could literally be their job on the line each and every play. And I would be similar to a clean-shaven mortal if I didn't tell you all first and foremost to keep your eyes on the Bears' grass. And no, I'm not joking, because their field conditions are already terrible, and I can prove it to you. There was an article that came out from the Chicago Sun-Times on August 10th, so 2 days ago, that detailed how badly their field already is. Listen to this, because it's a wild one. Quote, Bears kicker Cairo Santos is accustomed to battling the NFL's worst conditions, but he was hoping for at least a few good weeks at Soldier Field before the grass deteriorates. Too bad he was dismayed by how rough the field was at the stadium for practice Tuesday, and it likely won't be much better by Saturday when the Bears open the preseason game against the Chiefs, unless it gets re-sodded. This is insane, y'all. Santos is then quoted saying, especially in week 1, our first game of the season, I've seen better, Santos said, somehow sounding surprised, yet not surprised whatsoever at the same freaking time. I added the word freaking for emphasis. It's just what we have to deal with. The less of a problem you make it in your mind, it helps you overcome it and just go. And Santos said it's so uniquely bad that he has to find poorly maintained public parks in Florida to simulate it in the offseason. Quote, I was going to a turf field at a high school, which was perfect, Santos said. It was almost like, okay, I'm getting too comfortable. So in my neighborhood, there's a soccer field and the grass is Bermuda grass. It's real long. And I was like, okay, this is more like it. The ball flies different. It's not super even all the time. It's important to put yourself in that situation. So yeah, basically the Bears field freaking sucks. And this is something we need to keep our eyes on, because a field that is as bad as Derek Carr's play in the postseason, 0 playoff wins in 8 years, for the record, is a field that can hurt some of our players. So we got to watch out for that dumpster fire first and foremost, and pray that our team comes out on the healthy side of things once the fourth quarter ticks to 0. From here, let's talk about the actual team instead of stupid grass, starting with the quarterbacks. Of course, I want to watch Patrick Mahomes, the greatest QB on planet Earth, and see how the rapport has developed with the receiving room. That is almost entirely brand new. We've seen them looking good in training camp and all that good stuff, but everything changes under the quote-unquote bright lights. For example, this one's freaking bright. Andy Reid said yesterday each QB will play an entire quarter, but many are predicting Pat to only play 1 to 2 series max, so keep your eyes glued to the screen for the first couple of drives specifically, as Mahomes is likely to get yanked after that. Next, of course, I want to see Chad Henne and how he operates with the first team, because if, God forbid, Mahomes ever goes down with a minor injury only, never major with Mahomes, Henne will be the next man up to fill in for him, and I want to see how he looks with the starters for as long as they keep them out there. Lastly, I want to see Shane Buechele in action, as he is who I'm predicting will be the Chiefs QB trace. That's 3 in Spanish, if you didn't learn in school. And most likely he will be their practice squad guy, but the reason I'm keen on watching Buechele is for a couple of reasons. The first is because I'm honestly not sure how much longer Henne will be Patrick Mahomes' backup. Henne is 37 years old, and Father Time slows down for nobody except for Tom, the little cheating, voodoo-believing, witchcraft-bleeding Brady, that guy. And the second reason is because Buechele now has an entire year under his belt in KC. He went undrafted in 2021, signing to the Chiefs, and has since been training alongside Mahomes and with trainer Bobby Stroop, and has another full offseason to learn the playbook and further develop. So, does Shane Buechele have what it takes to be QB2 in the future? Well, that's what I want to know, and we should get some clues starting tomorrow. If the Chiefs somehow manage to hold on to this man for the season on the practice squad, they may have to activate him like they did last year when the Cardinals tried to sign this man. He could very well be the guy to take Henne's spot next season if the Chiefs are happy enough with Buechele's progress to not re-sign Chad Henne. And then there's Dustin Crum, the UDFA the Chiefs brought in for competition this season, and I don't honestly predict this man to make the roster, but I am intrigued on how he will do tomorrow. He's Buechele's rival competition after all, so we will have to keep our pupils dilated on that battle, certainly. And next up is the running back room, a truly intriguing battle going on there. CEH will get some reps, certainly, but protect this man, please, and give him limited reps because so far he's shown a strong resistance to seasonal longevity. You like that phrase? I wouldn't expect the Chiefs to play Jerick McKinnon a ton either, as he's a veteran entering year 9 in the NFL, and they also need to preserve his body like a mummy in a tomb as well. Now, the guys I really want to watch, we've talked about many times on this channel, no surprise if you've been here for a minute, is Ronald Jones and Isaiah Pacheco. Ronald Jones is a former Tampa Bay Buccaneer who is only 2 seasons removed from a near 1,000-yard rushing season. That's right, in 2020, he rushed for 978 yards with a 5.1 yard average and 7 TDs, but seems to struggle a little bit in pass protection as well as the pass catching aspect of the game. Meanwhile, Jerick McKinnon and Isaiah Pacheco do not seem to have that issue at least as much as Rojo. Of course, all Pacheco talk is meaningless until he actually plays in an NFL game, but you know what I mean. Eric Bieniemy recently shared that they demand a lot from their running backs here in KC, and the expectations are very high for the running back room, and the one who seems to be making all the noise is the 7th round draft pick Isaiah Pacheco, as he's been getting reps even above Ronald Jones at times, wowing many people around the league and even gathering national attention. NFL talking heads have been talking what if, all kinds of what if convos with Isaiah Pacheco, for clicks, views, all that good stuff. And if you go to my Twitter page, speaking of clicks and views, I just uploaded a 2-minute highlight clip today of some of Isaiah Pacheco's best plays in college, and trust me, it's worth watching. @HBT Chiefs. Go check it out after this video. He is a beast. He runs a 4.3740 and has already earned his spot on the roster as a kick returner, at least for now, and is looking to be slated as RB3 or 4, depending on how many backs they end up keeping, plus more than likely fullback Michael Burton. So the battle to watch here is Pacheco and Jones. How do they look in all facets of the game? Don't just watch their runs, watch their ability to protect the QB, and also watch their ability to catch passes. It's lightly rumored, that Ronald Jones is in jeopardy of remaining on the team and could potentially be traded away or cut at some point this month if he does not ball out. And if that's the case, and the Chiefs want to up, what was that? I don't know, Rojo's stock, they may play him a bunch in this game and possibly the next as well. It's certainly something to watch for. And another guy to watch for is running back Derek Gore, who I imagine is one of the guys that ends up on the practice squad. He's shown a lot of flashes when given the chance and knows the system. And when injuries happen in the running back room, I predict he will get elevated to the roster at some point this season because sadly injuries always seem to happen, especially to running backs. It's a violent game. And as far as wide receivers go, of course I want to see how MVS and Juju do with Mahomes, as they are the Juju guys in the room that the Chiefs will be counting on, leaning on, all that good stuff to really help with moving the chains and scoring TDs. But I'm not sure how much they will actually play in this upcoming game as the Chiefs make way for more of the younger guys and those fighting to make the roster. For example, I'm ever so interested in seeing the rookie receiver Sky Moore, who has shown more promise during training camp than he was even projected to and has been generating lots of hype, although not as much as Pacheco. But I do believe Sky will be a contributor in this offense this season. Yet, I want to see how he translates in an NFL game, so very excited to see that. Man, the rest of the receivers that I'm interested in watching would be the 4 guys or so that are perceived to be fighting for wide receiver 5 and wide receiver 6, those 2 spots on the roster. And those 4 guys are Justin Watson, DeRuse Fountain, Cornell Powell, and Josh Gordon. Corey Coleman could also find himself in the mix if he really shines when given opportunities, but I think it's mainly down to Watson, Fountain, Powell, and Gordon. Justin Watson and DeRuse Fountain are the favored guys right now because of their special teams playing ability, as the Chiefs had quite a bit of special teams roster turnover this offseason, including wide receivers Byron Pringle and Marcus Kemp, who are now no longer with the team. And ironically enough, Byron Pringle is actually with the Bears, so we may see that man out there tomorrow indeed. Anyway, while Justin Watson and DeRuse Fountain seem to be favored, Cornell Powell has had several standout camp practices very recently and is really attempting to make his case to be on this roster. And Josh Gordon is, well, Josh freaking Gordon. We all know the name, and although it's been almost 10 years since his insane 1,600 plus yard season in 2013, he was able to rack up 720 yards with the Patriots as recently as 2018 and is still wanting to prove that he has what it takes. He said recently in a presser with the media that when given opportunities this preseason, he will make the most of them. So we are certainly about to find out for sure. The last receiver that I'll be watching for in particular is the running back receiver hybrid Jerrion Ealy, who would be an intriguing guy to have on the practice squad due to his versatility. At rookie training camp and mandatory minicamp, I believe he was on the roster as a running back, but is now on the Chiefs' unofficial depth chart as a receiver. So very intriguing and interesting to watch for. Jerrion Ealy, look for this man's name. And as far as tight ends go, Travis Kelce will see pretty limited snaps, at least I would hope and expect as much. We must protect Kelce at all costs, please God. And then Jody Fortson may see a limited amount of snaps also, as he's recently recovered from a quad. I pointed to my quad like you could see it, injury of sorts, and only yesterday was back in pads at practice, but not yet fully participating in practice. So I would imagine the Chiefs don't risk it for the little biscuit with Fortson, as he's the guy that I predict, if he can stay healthy, will be taking some snaps in Kelce's stead as they work to decrease some of Kelce's overall snaps this season to honor his age. Yes, he's getting a little bit up there in NFL years, and preserve his body for the duration of a long season, because the Chiefs are making it deep into the playoffs. So how about those Chiefs? Next up is Noah Gray, a guy to watch in particular, as he's already pretty much a roster lock per Dave Tobe for special teams usage. Gray is one of the few guys returning that played a significant amount of special teams last season, and he's also had a consistent training camp thus far, showing signs of progression, especially compared to last year's camp. Another couple of guys, tight ends, to watch for would be Matt Bushman and Jordan Franks, who may indeed be fighting for a spot on the practice squad, as veteran Blake Bell will more than likely earn a spot on the roster before either of these two guys, in my bearded opinion, at least. But both Bushman and Franks have shown some decent flashes at camp. Franks in particular has nice hair. For one, I literally have none, so very nice hair, good sir, but also has had some standout grabs throughout both OTAs and training camp. And if we look to the offensive line, I think starters are looking to be Orlando Brown Jr., Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Andrew Wiley in order from left to right. But keep your eyes on the right tackle position, because Andrew Wiley has recently been sharing reps at times with Jerron Christian, and I imagine we will see Christian get some reps at right tackle, as well as the newly drafted rookie Darian Hulk Smash Kennard. He's someone I would expect to see lots of reps out there, as in theory, he's a potential right tackle candidate for the team. However, if he doesn't show enough promise at tackle, I think he'd make for a great guard at either side for rotational depth purposes, as he played quite a bit of guard in college as well. Roderick Johnson is another guy I'd be watching out for, as when Orlando Brown Jr. wasn't yet at training camp, he was the guy taking reps in Orlando's absence. And then Prince Tega Wanogho, I like that name, is the next guy to watch, as he recently came off the PUP list and was working with the second team at right tackle yesterday, and is also someone that Pete Sweeney of Arrowhead Pride thinks is a sneaky little ninja dark horse candidate to watch for. Then there's Nick Allegretti, who's been with the team since 2019 and has shown he's a valuable depth piece, even starting 9 games in 2020, and also filling in for Joe Thuney at left guard when Junie had to kick out to left tackle when Orlando was injured last season. So yeah, Lots of freaking names here, lots of moving pieces, but the main guys on the offensive line that I want to watch in particular tomorrow would be Darian Kennard, Jerron Christian, Roderick Johnson, and Prince Tega Wanogho. All right, let's talk special teams briefly because again, running back Isaiah Pacheco will be set to return kicks, then wide receiver Sky Moore should be the first on punt returns, followed by cornerback Trent McDuffie, who I'm not personally the biggest fan of having returned punts as he's a projected starting corner for the team. More on that guy later, but another guy we may see return some punts is wide receiver Corey Coleman, who is a guy I mentioned earlier that is fighting for a spot on the roster currently as well. I'm also intrigued to see who plays on special teams overall and if there are any standout players making tackles on punt and kick returns. So look for those. And as far as the defense goes, there's a ton to watch for, but let's look at the D-line first because I want to watch George Karlaftis, the rookie defensive end. He's one that may not start out of the gate, but will be getting a lot of reps this season as they rotate Frank Clark, Mike Dana, and Carlos Dunlap in and out, and we need to see George perform very well, if I'm going to be honest. Frank Clark is someone I'm interested in seeing as well because he seems to be taking things much more serious this offseason and also at training camp, but he probably won't see many reps in this preseason game. Being a veteran, yes, but also because he missed practice with an illness yesterday, so we may not see this man play at all. Then the newly added Carlos Dunlap may see some reps out there, which will be interesting. I want to see him put some work in, but he's a vet in this game. He's on like year 18,000. So I'm more curious to see some of the younger guys in action instead. For example, I want to see if defensive end Malik Herring makes any splashes as he was a UDFA the Chiefs signed last year, but was on the reserve/NFI list to start the season as he was recovering from a torn ACL suffered in practices for the College Football Senior Bowl. He's someone that was a low-risk signing with a high-ish potential upside, and now is his time to shine to make an impression. It was recently noted at training camp, y'all must know this, that outside of Chris Jones, Malik Herring was the best looking guy on the entire defensive line, so very freaking interesting. Another guy to watch for is defensive end Joshua Kando, a guy who the Chiefs drafted in the 4th round last year but spent most of the season on IR due to an ankle injury. I'm curious to see how he's looking this season, and I'd imagine he'd want to leave an impression on the coaching staff in this game. Colin Saunders, a 3rd round draft pick in 2019, is another guy to watch out for as well to see if he's elevated his game and can stay healthy. He's dealt with injuries the past couple of years that has limited his overall play time, so it's been a bit unfortunate for Saunders thus far. Lastly on the line, I want to see some more play from Tershawn Wharton, a defensive tackle who went undrafted in 2020 but made the Chiefs' final roster out of training camp. He's someone who said he's really improved his game, taking advice from people like Frank Clark and Chris Jones on off-season training, and I want to see it tomorrow. As far as linebackers go, of course, I want to see Nick Bolton and Willie Gay out there throwing people aside, ragdolling them, all that good stuff, as they may be one of the top 5 linebacker duos in all the NFL. Maybe I'm biased, but top 5 to me. Anyway, I'd imagine that their reps are going to be pretty limited as they make way for others who are on the bubble. I want to see some reps from Jack Cochran, a UDFA from this year's draft, as well as Elijah Lee, a local Blue Springs veteran who has been talked up quite a bit multiple times by Mitch Holthus. He's a guy who is said to be seen out there on more likely passing downs, while the new rookie Leo Chanel will be out there on more perceived to be dedicated rundowns, and that's who I'm also pretty intrigued to see. The rookie Leo Chanel, who apparently has been struggling a bit at training camp, particularly in the pass game and kind of learning all that good stuff that's way above me and my bald head, but he is a legit homewrecker in the run game, and it's rumored he could be used creatively in different blitz packages and even on the edge of the D-line, though I don't fully know what to expect from him tomorrow, but I'm pretty freaking excited, to say the least. And then if we look at the secondary, there's so much going on there, as I think 5 guys back there are rookies who were drafted this year. Crazy indeed. But one guy I want to see is veteran Lonnie Johnson Jr. in action, who is a cornerback from the Texans that KC traded for in May of this year, and was someone I predicted to potentially start in Rashad Fenton's stead, since Fenton was a guy who had off-season shoulder surgery. But Rashad Fenton is now back from injury for one. And on top of that, Lonnie has been seen primarily taking reps at training camp with the 2nd and the 3rd team. From what I understand, very little reps with the 1st team, while younger players such as Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, and Trent McDuffie, all rookies, were seen more with the 1s than he was. So Lonnie is either a known quantity or they wanted to get the new guys some additional reps with the ones, or he's struggling a bit to catch on, and if he makes the roster, may see himself more as a special teams guy. So Lonnie Johnson Jr. is one I'm definitely interested to see play and see what the heck ends up becoming of this man. The next guy I want to see is cornerback Joshua Williams, the Chiefs' 4th-round draft pick from this year's draft, who was seen taking what I think was reps in Rashad Fenton's absence, and he's shown great promise so far at camp, at least, making a lot of splash plays, catching on quicker than expected in Spags' complicated defense, all that good stuff. And it's also worth noting he's a very long-bodied corner at 6'3", a very intriguing guy from a D2 HBCU college, Fayetteville State. And I'm very excited to see if Veach's gamble pays off with Joshua Williams starting with these preseason games. Williams is a guy who looks, at least right now on paper, to be the Chiefs' cornerback 4 after L'Jarius Sneed, Trent McDuffie, and Rashad Fenton. So I'm excited to see this man in action. And then one of the guys I'm most intrigued to see on the entire roster would be the Chiefs' 1st-round pick, a guy they traded up for to grab, and that is indeed rookie cornerback Trent McDuffie. He's a very athletic man, yet a bit smaller in size at 5'11", but in spite of this man's size, he's been balling out the last week or so, particularly at training camp, breaking up multiple passes and making what seems to be play after play after play. A lot is riding on this man's shoulders, honestly, as he's coming in to be an instant starter, filling the void that Charvarius Ward left behind when he signed a big deal with the 49ers. Another guy to watch for is DiCaprio Bootle, a UDFA from the 2021 draft who has been showing a lot of promise at camp so far and may very well at least make a strong case to make the 53-man roster. And as far as safeties go, of course I'm interested in seeing Justin Reed. He was one of the first big free agency signings the Chiefs made this offseason, stating their case that Tyrann Mathieu was indeed gone. Reed was previously with the Texans and, interestingly enough, good friends with Lonnie Johnson Jr., the cornerback the Chiefs traded for back in May. And Justin Reed is essentially, like I said, Tyrann Mathieu's replacement. Big shoes to fill. I'm not sure how many snaps Reed will actually play tomorrow, but a lot is riding on how well this man plays, as he's going to be leading the defense in a lot of ways. Another safety I want to see is Brian Cook, the Chiefs' 2nd-round draft pick from this year. He's one that is going to be seeing a lot of reps this season, in theory, outside of Justin Reed and Juan Thornhill. And this man is a violent man on the field, very physical. So I'm excited to see him out there laying the wood, as some people would say, people who don't care about the word pause. So yeah, basically, there's a lot to freaking watch for. I couldn't pick my top 3, my top 5, and just do one video on that because there's just so much. I'm probably going to watch tomorrow's game, for example, 4 to 5 times by Monday or Tuesday to soak it all in and fill you all in on what I really saw. Yet, I still hope this video was a little helpful to some of you. It wasn't a full overview, like I said at the beginning, but just some players from each position group that I'm interested in seeing, people you should maybe keep your eyes on as well. There's a lot of young guys, new guys, and the like on this roster, and a large part of the team's success this year will depend on how quickly some of these guys can develop and make moves out on the football field quickly. And with all that being said, if I had to pick my top 3 players to watch for on each side of the ball, I'd pick running backs Isaiah Pacheco and Ronald Jones as the first watch. Yes, I just combined the 2. Then wide receiver Sky Moore, and then offensive tackle Darian Kennard. And my top 3 on the defense would be cornerback Trent McDuffie, defensive end George Karlaftis, and then cornerback Joshua Williams. Yeah, basically all rookies, but all rookies who, for the most part, need to catch on quick and contribute to this team's success. What do you guys think of today's video? I'm curious to see who you all are most excited to watch. Give me your top 3 on each side of the ball, and let's look for them in tomorrow's game. And just a reminder, I'm going live after the game tomorrow to hang out with you all so that we can talk about all the plays, the players that we saw, and just enjoy a good old post-game hangout, one of many to come, I assure you. Make sure to leave a super thanks or a bearded comment to potentially be featured in an upcoming vid. Sub and like and blah, blah, blah. Then check out this video here, boop, pew, from All Chiefed Up. And please, if you guys respect the beard, do me a favor and sub to their channel, as they are right near 1,000 subs. And after that, they can monetize their channel and make a little bit of money. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?